Hello, Buckingham colleagues. Welcome to your initial, of which I assume will be many, kind of updates on working together with our new colleagues at the Colony Group. And we wanted to highlight a couple of important compliance changes that will come on day one. So day one being July 1st, that will have to integrate our combined ethics and compliance programs. Really excited to be joined by our newest colleagues, John Stelly, who is the Chief Compliance Officer, Carla Sullivan, who is the General Counsel, Vincent Gratch, who is the Deputy Chief Compliance Officer, and Matt Valentine, who is also a Deputy Chief Compliance Officer. They're going to walk us through some of the practical elements and operational elements of these new compliance requirements. And then, of course, my colleagues Jake and Jeff are joining as well, who have been integral parts of this whole integration planning and work that's been going on in the background. So before we kind of proceed, Carla and John, I didn't know if you wanted to say a few remarks before we get started.
Sure. I just wanted to say it's nice to meet everybody, and I am very much looking forward to getting to know all of you in the coming days and weeks ahead.
Hi, everybody. John Stelly, Chief Compliance Officer. Just wanted to welcome everyone to the Colony Group. I'm looking forward to July 1st when we're all on the same team. And I'm going to pass it off back to Sal.
Great. Thanks, Carla. Thanks, John. I think that this is going to be a monumental kind of task that we really are going to need everybody's participation and work on. But we are excited about the things that aren't going to change and the things that are consistent with our newest colleagues over at Colony Group, which is kind of our commitment to ethical conduct, in our commitment to integrity, transparency, and accountability. And so along those lines, we will have to move to a combined code of ethics. And as part of that combined code of ethics, there will be a couple of personal trading changes, and there will also be a compliance system change. We'll be moving over to a new compliance system called ACA Compliance Alpha, and we'll no longer be utilizing My Compliance Office, and you'll see a new Okta tile for you to be able to access that. There will also be some changes to personal trading and some changes to gifts and entertainment. So on that note, I want to pass it over to Vince to get you a little bit more detail on these requirements and this upcoming conversion. And I'll just end with a big thank you. A thank you to the entire legal and compliance team at Buckingham, and a thank you to the entire legal and compliance team at the Colony Group, because there's been a tremendous amount of work that's been going on in the background, and we look forward to our next evolution of this after July 1st. So thanks. Vince?
Thanks, Sal. Great intro. Really well done. So Vince Gratch here. I've been with Colony for many, many years, and I work in our Hingham office, just south of Boston. And ACA is the platform. We've had it for a few years now. It's served us well. I know MCO has served you well historically, but we're one large firm now, and we have decided that we're going to stay on ACA. ACA is used for a lot of things. It's the trading, it's personal private investments. Of course, that's a 204 requirement. Those have to be pre-approved. Gifts and entertainment, political contributions reporting, OBAs, different affirmations and questionnaires for new hires. Even from time to time, we throw in a new affirmation if we think it's worthwhile for a particular policy, and we want everyone to be on board and acknowledge the importance of it. It might be monthly, it might generally quarterly. And then complaint reporting. We use the program for complaints as well. Next slide, please. 5. Okay, so what are some of the differences? The big thing here is stock. So personal stock, whether it's common or preferred, and then certain fixed income securities. So non-U.S. government bonds. So that would be corporates or munis. So anything that falls within those two buckets there has to be pre-cleared through ACA. Of course, this requirement doesn't change for you if you're trading in any of the mutual funds that you're an advisor to, or those have to be pre-cleared. And likewise, now for the rest of Colony, if we choose to invest in any of them, we have to pre-clear them. you do have to have all of your accounts set up in ACA. So everyone is an access person at Colony Group. I think that was that way at Buck as well. But so, you know, you're going to meet the definition of an access person. It's your, you know, family members living in the same household. Make sure you get all of the necessary accounts included in ACA, because when you do go to trade to submit a pre-clear for a stock or a certain fixed income security, it has to have an account associated with it, or you can't submit it. One of the first questions you'll see when you get onto ACA and you start disclosing your accounts and those connections and feeds that start to occur is at the account level, you're going to have to tell us or tell the program, that is, whether it's a self-directed account or a professionally managed account. And we all know what the former is, but the latter is, right, Buck could be managed, or Colony now is managing it, right, pursuant to maybe or maybe not, you have an advisor agreement in place, but there has to be a clear understanding that someone on the Buck PM team, investment team, is managing that portfolio, and you don't have say into that. Or it's a separate account manager / sub-advisor, someone on the outside is managing it. So if it fits into one of those two buckets, of course, it's not self-directed, and the pre-clear requirements don't apply. So make sure you get that question correct. Ab initio, just like Latin for you lawyers listening. So mutual funds and ETF securities, ETFs, treasuries, right, not subject to pre-clearance, of course. With the mutual funds, with the exception of the 8 or 10, I think 10 mutual funds that you're an advisor to. No 30-day holding requirement, but we can run reports out of ACA that just shows the level of activity, trade activity, whether it's buys or sells over a quarter, over a month, and we do look at that. And we have been known to reach out to employees from time to time saying it's upticking a little bit. Why? Maybe they're just rebalancing something and that's why we saw it, but it shouldn't be. We want people doing their jobs, right, and spending their working hours working for their clients, right, and not day trading and that kind of thing. Options are permitted, but pre-clear is reportable security. Again, all these things. Look, I do encourage you. Well, you have to acknowledge you're going to read the code within 10 days of the first. So that's what the 10th. But so you have to acknowledge that you've received and read the code, but it's done well. It's really clear on all these things. So invest the time in that. And we have, just FYI, about 175, 180 securities on our control list. And what that means is they're not companies that we have MNPI on right now, but they are public companies for whom we have client insiders. So either a member of the board of directors or, you know, just an executive officer. And so we have to keep track of that, of those. And that's a disclosable item as well in ACA for wealth advisors. If they have a client insider, we have to know about it. We have to add them to the control list. And so we prohibit employees from buying into control list securities. You can sell open to a window, and we'll work through that with you if the time comes, if and when if you're bringing a position over, it's on the control list, you want to sell it, we can find a time for you to sell it if and when you choose so, but you can't buy them. Control list as opposed to a restricted list. A restricted list is, and we've just actually changed the terminology of this very recently. Again, it's clear in the code, but the restricted list is it's actually that. It's a position that a company that we do have MNPI on. And most often we don't have MNPI in public companies. But if we do, that name would get added to the restricted list. We would let everyone know. We're not going to trade it in client accounts, and obviously employees can't trade it. But we make sure we communicate that out to firm-wide, to all of the owners of the trading systems and the portfolio accounting systems, to put a hard restriction on that until such time that we can remove it, like when the material that was non-public becomes public. So it's temporary. And right now, I don't think we have any names on the list. And another key here is when you do get permission to trade in a security, you have to trade that day, and it's East Coast hours. I know we have different time zones, so it's good for that day. And just, you know, if I don't submit a request for approval over the weekend, just submit it during the trading hours and try to trade it that day. Limit orders are permissible again, but they expire in 2 weeks. So the integration plan, and there's been a lot of people working really hard and diligently behind the scenes, including assistance we're getting from ACA on this. But in terms of where we stand right now, we like I mentioned Ben Park. He's been doing the Lord's work at this. It's doing a great job, and as well as like all the other firms that were just have been brought in. So he's working hard to get the feeds established, and get all of the accounts that your accounts, spouses, and other required accounts up into ACA. And we think most of them are going to be up and ready before the day of merger. That's the expectation. But some may not be, and if any are not, and that we're going to have to, if 10 days has passed and they're still not there, well, we're going to have to manually enter those accounts in or use a different method. But assuming your accounts are in ACA on the first, then you are free to go and submit pre-clearance, pre-approval requests for stock trades or certain fixed income securities. If it's not set up and you want to trade, then you can set up the account manually and then create the ticker. And then when the time comes when the feed is established, I believe we go and terminate the original account there, because it's an automatic feed after that. So hopefully that's clear. It's really just timing. But I think everything is going to be in pretty good shape, close to the first. So we talked about the pre-approvals, right? Within 10 days, you'll have to acknowledge that your accounts are there and they're accurate. And yes, it's 10 days, so that's what? Yeah, it'd be July 10th. Also, you'll see acknowledgements for OBAs and that data, so OBAs and political contributions, that data is coming over as well. ACA is assisting with that, getting it from MCO into ACA. That may or may not be in place by July 10th. Okay, Gifts and Entertainment. You all are quite familiar with, so if you're a fixed income person, if you're a registered rep, or if you work on behalf of the ERISA plan business, and you know what your reporting requirements and pre-clearing requirements are right now. There's no change to any of that for you all, and you know who you are. For everyone else, we do have a $500 threshold. So Gifts and Entertainment, and again, the policy is really clear. It's only 2 pages. I encourage you to read it, as soon as possible. To or from its clients or prospects or vendors. It applies to all 3 groups. That's your limit before you have to start disclosing. And again, and it's an arrears disclosure after the quarter ends as well. So I think that's it for my slide or my slides, and I'm going to turn it over to the capable and trusty Matt Valentine now.
Thanks for that introduction, Vince. So as been said, I'm Matt Valentine. I was previously CCO and counsel for GW & Wade. I came over to the Colony Group as a deputy CCO as part of the Wade merger. And I just want to say it's been great so far. We just have an amazing combined team, and I'm really looking forward to getting to know more of you. So what we have here is kind of the ACA demo portion of the presentation. Ben Park will actually send out a more detailed instructional video that will appear in your ACA action items. It's a really good video. It goes through all the different nooks and crannies of the system. But these next few slides are more of just a brief introduction. It's designed to give you the look and feel of what ACA looks like. So this first screenshot is what you'll see when you log in. If you don't see the screen for some reason, you just click the dashboard on the left-hand side of the ribbon, and it will take you to the screen. And you have action items. The action items are going to show you all the affirmations that are due and required. Under quick links, we have the trade request form, gifts and entertainment reporting, political contributions, outside business activities, new brokerage accounts, etc. It operates very simply. It's almost like an ATM machine. You just click into what you want to do, and you can get right through it. You're also going to want to make sure that all of your broker feed statuses are green. As an aside, it may take time to establish the feeds. So it's therefore going to be best to go in and confirm, a few days after the close, after all the affirmations are launched, everybody has access, you can see all your accounts and your feeds, then go in and review them. Moving on to slide 9. As Vince mentioned, it will be a best practice to place personal stock and non-US government bond trades ahead of the closing date, if at all possible. That said, If you absolutely need to execute a trade that requires pre-clearance after the close, it can be accommodated. You're just going to submit a trade request, make sure your name populates here as the user. You're going to select trade approval request, and then hit continue. Then you're going to search for the symbol or CUSIP that you're trading and select it. You're going to need to select the correct account. If your account has not been added for some reason, the form won't allow you to move forward. However, we can manually add an account for you as a temporary measure. If that's the case, just give us a ring or reach out, and we'll walk you through how to manually add that account. Otherwise, just hold off on trading until all the accounts and feeds have been transferred, and then it will go very smoothly for you. To complete the rest of the screen, you're just going to select buy or sell, enter the quantity, and then whether or not there are conflicts of interest. That's generally going to be none, and then hit continue. So these are just a basic set of affirmation questions that need to be completed. All of the red stars are required fields. So if it's not a red star, you don't necessarily have to complete it. These questions are really self-explanatory. You're just going to go through them and hit continue. And then the next slide. This is the final screen. So the trade will appear, and then you can add additional requests if you need to. So you'll see there you have Apple. So if you want to add another stock, you just add an additional request, and keep adding symbols until you have all the trades that you want to submit. Sign off on all the attestations there, and then hit submit. So at that point, your request is considered submitted. However, you're still not done. We still have to confirm that the trade was actually approved. So at this point, you go back to the dashboard, and then you're just going to confirm the status of your recent request. So you can see here that my trade is still pending approval. So I'm going to have to wait until that turns green and says approved for me to actually go and complete the trade. And it is possible that there will be additional questions from compliance, including whether or not there are timing restrictions on when you can place the trade. So for example, if the symbol is on Colony's active buy list, the trade must be executed after 3 p.m. And again, that's Eastern time. If the symbol is on our restricted list and it's an opening transaction, it will be denied. But if it's a closing transaction for a restricted symbol, we could potentially approve it. However, it just has to be executed within the trading window. And that generally opens one full day after the stock's earnings announcement and then closes the 15th day of the final month of the quarter. And then, like I said, once you have that green light, it says approved, you can go ahead and submit the trade. Should be done that day. And then that's it. You're all set. Moving on to the last slide here for client restricted list trading. Colony and Buckingham are working out a long-term policy solution. Buckingham is adding all of Colony's restricted securities to the pre-clearance and restricted list. That said, if you do have an insider if you haven't scratched that there, if you have a client that is an insider at a company, we will confirm that you do not have MNPI before each restricted trade is placed. Also, you're going to want to inform compliance if you have changes to the restricted list so we can confirm Colony's master list is updated. Okay, yeah, and that wraps up the ACA portion of the presentation. At this point, I'll swing it back to Sal for some closing remarks.
Great. Thanks, Matt. Hopefully that overview was helpful for all of you. Certainly there may be components there that are different or more complicated than the types of pre-clearance that we would do in the past. But if you have a question, please ask. So obviously the most important thing to do is ask a question before you do something, as opposed to doing something that could then be considered a breach of policy that you weren't aware of. So the Buckingham compliance team is available for any questions, bswcompliance@buckinghamgroup.com. If we don't know the answer, we'll find out the answer for you. And with that, I wanted to thank you for your time. Thanks to Vince, John, Carla, Jeff, Matt, and Jake for their time today, and we'll look forward to the next future evolution.